Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Pirke Avot series 5782 on finding holiness. Happy you can join us tonight. The series is sponsored by Mr. and Mrs. Eric Benchetrit in memory of our dear friend, Mr. Moshe ben Ephraim Zichrono Livracha. And as well, may the words of Torah, lessons that we learn tonight, be le'ilu nishmato, ti nafsho tzerura, bitzror ha'chaim. Amen. Again, a big thanks to everyone joining us tonight live, or for those on our podcast, findingholiness.buzzsprout.com, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you hear your podcast. Thank you for your support. Today we are studying the first Mishnah of the fourth chapter in Pirke Avot. This Mishnah contains statements that are arguably the most widely used in our tradition. The Mishnah of Ben Zoma, who is the author, has been deciphered, has been analyzed by great commentators. And Be'ezrat Hashem, I hope to shed some light on some new ideas beyond the obvious, although we will touch upon the obvious as we normally do. So let's look at the Mishnah inside. And again, you can open up a Sidur, you can open up a Mishnah to follow along with me, but I will read it and translate it. Ben Zoma Omer, Ben Zoma used to say, Ezehu Chacham, who is considered to be wise. Halomed mikol adam. A person who's wise is a person who learns from every person. Shnei Emar, as the pasuk says in Tehillim, chapter 119, Mikol melamedai hiskalti, ki advotecha sichali. From all my teachers I have grown wise, for your testimonials are my meditation. Next statement. Ezehu gibor, who is considered strong. Hakovesh et yitzro, the one who overpowers his inclination. Shnei Emar, as the pasuk says in Mishlei, 16th chapter, Tov erech apayim migibor, umoshel berucho miloched ir. Better one who is slow to anger than one with might, one who rules his spirit than the captor of a city. Ezehu ashir, who is rich. The third statement of Ben Zoma. Hasameach bechelko, the person who is happy with his lot. Shnei Emar, Yegia kapecha ki tochel, ashrecha vetovlach. Ashrecha ba'olam hazeh, vetovlach ba'olam haba. Pasuk says in Tehillim, chapter 128, if you eat of toil of your hands, fortunate are you and good is to you. Ashrecha, fortunate are you, ba'olam hazeh, in this world, and vetovlach, good for you in the world to come. And the last statement, Ezehu mechubad, who is honorable, hamechabed et haberiot, one who honors his fellows. Shneimar ki mechabedai achabed uvozai yekalu. As the pasuk says in Sefer Shemuel, the book of Samuel, for those who honor me, I accord honor. Those who scorn me shall be demeaned. And that concludes the first Mishnah of the fourth Pirke. So let's go through each one of these one by one, try to extract some basic lessons, some deeper lessons, some life lessons. And B'ezrat Hashem, we will conclude the class with something to take home with us. Let's talk about the first statement. Ezehu chacham halomed mikol adam. Who is considered wise? The person who learns from all men. There's no person on earth who does not wish to attain wisdom. Shlomo HaMelech writes that if one has not acquired wisdom, then what has he acquired? A person cannot remain in a low level of chokhmah, of knowledge, his whole life. Hashem wants us to explore. He wants us to learn about the world that He created. He wants us to discover meaning in everything that we do. And there are various ways to acquire wisdom. Some do it through books. We call those people book smart. Some do it through experience. We call those people street smart. Others do it through their teachers. The fact remains that chokhmah, wisdom, is everywhere. and you have to just search for it. Everywhere we go, everything we encounter, every trip we take, there is something to learn, something to explore, and something to discover. And this wisdom is not just found among Jewish people, it's even found among the Gentiles. And that's the reason why Ben Zoma says, Halomed mikol Adam. It does not say Halomed mikol Yehudi or Halomed mikol Israel, from every Jew or every Israelite, because the non-Jews possess as well lots of chokhmah, possess lots of wisdom throughout the millennia. And as long as that wisdom does not contradict the Torah values, then it's fine to learn from it. That's where we need to learn from it, in fact. Today, we have many media platforms, one of them such as YouTube, which has become a medium of tremendous learning. And there are many how-to videos to get across through life and discover things and learn things that it could be very beneficial. Just the other day, or a couple of weeks ago, I was faced with I was in a certain predicament where I needed to unplug my dishwasher. I was getting rid of a dishwasher, bought a new one, installed a new one. I need to unplug a dishwasher. Now, I'm not very handy. In fact, it's one thing I definitely need a lot of practice for and to work on that. I'm not a handy type of person. I didn't really know how to take apart a dishwasher, but it was necessary for the delivery men to remove the old dishwasher for me. Otherwise, it would be stuck in my house. So I watched a 20-minute video on YouTube of some person in Tennessee, United States, who showed me how to dislodge a dishwasher from its piping and its electrical circuits and wires. And great. Halomed mikol Adam. Now I know how to take apart a dishwasher. And as well, the other day, I had an issue with a swimming pool heater, and I needed to take apart the heater to clean, the filter. Need to take apart the filter to clean out the filter. Again, being a person who is not known for his tremendous handiwork, maybe for some people this would have been quite easy, but for me it wasn't. So I had to go online and figure it out, and just a quick YouTube search, and I found what I needed to do and how to do it. So you see that there is learning across the spectrum of the globe. And again, as long as that wisdom does not go against the Torah values, then it's perfectly legit to learn from any person. This guy on YouTube, these people on YouTube not only taught me a skill, but as well, he saved me money. I would have had to call a professional to dislodge the dishwasher or to fix the pool filter. Not everything is learnable, however, and not everyone is a teacher. There are many disgraced individuals online who are preaching things that should not be heard. They are preaching ideas and philosophies that are against our religion, against any level of morals, and for sure against our culture. These individuals, we can call them conceited individuals who have no prior knowledge of anything and wish to spit out the garbage that is in their mind at the world at large. And people listen to this and they believe it and they fall trap to it. Many shouldn't even be classified as Adam, as a human being, because their life is nothing similar to man, but rather to animals. They live a life of drugs. They live a life of sex and alcohol and abuse. And why would anybody want to absorb any knowledge that comes out from these people when it's hard to even classify them as people, given the garbage that they spew out to the people listening to them? But pushing those aside, I believe that a lot of the people, majority of the people of the world, have what to offer and have what to give. And we have to learn from them. The Talmud talks about 10 different steps that are required in order to make your bread. That's one of the reasons why we hold the bread with 10 fingers, although I gave a recent class on that not long ago, just last week. But one of the reasons why we hold our bread, or when we say hamotzi, with 10 fingers, because there's 10 different steps in order to get bread from the moment the wheat is planted until it lands on our table. So that means I have to thank the farmer, and I have to thank the baker and all the people involved in getting that bread onto my table. I learn from them. So there's lots to learn. but you have to be willing to learn. And you can't think of yourself as a person that knows it all. You can't think of yourself as the know-it-all type of individual. Otherwise, you will stagnate. You will remain here and you will not grow. And that has to be constant. The growth of learning has to be continuous. It's not a one and done attitude. The learning has to be halomed mikol adam, in the present tense. A person who lives their life in constant awareness that everything around him, there is what to learn. That's the person who's going to reach the level of the Chacham. The Chacham is a very, very lofty level. The Chacham requires a lot of study and requires a lot of general knowledge as well. And then the person always has to go around thinking that there's still areas for him to improve, not only in his character traits, but of course in his Torah study and in general knowledge as well. One of the benefits and advantages, I would even call it one of the pleasures that I have personally teaching in a Jewish school, is the ability that I can reach out to my fellow colleagues, my fellow Rabbanim, and we often share ideas of Torah. We'll stop each other in the hall and we'll share ideas on the weekly parasha. We'll look at a peculiar or complex halacha and we'll discuss it. Being that we share the same passion to teach Torah, this is something that we enjoy. And we can stop each other and share our novelties and share our chidushim. And those sometimes that could be the highlight of my day, to hear a new chidush from a colleague, from a rabbi that is around me. We stop in the hall and share divrei Torah. We share divrei chizuk. Each one walks out a different person. I'm not the same person after I heard that divar Torah than I was before that divar Torah. And really, that's the mindset we should have whenever we are listening to a divrei Torah. I'm going to finish this divar Torah eventually tonight. And we hope that you are now a person who has grown in learning. You have a new idea of what this Mishnah means, Bezrat Hashem, and you're not the same person as you were before this shiur began. That is Ezehu Chacham Halomed Mikol Adam. Moving on to the second statement of Ben Zoma. Ezehu Gibor HaKovesh et Yitzro. Who is considered strong? Who is considered mighty? He who conquers his yetzer, his inclination. Let's speak a little bit about strength. The Greeks were known for idolizing the human body in human form. They were the creators of the Olympic Games, and that was just an extent of this line of thought that was idolized by so many people many, many centuries ago. But Ben Zoma in our Mishnah defines strength something as the polar opposite of physical stature and physical form. The strong person is not one who can bench press 300 pounds. He is not a person who can build a home or a deck with his bare hands without the assistance of anybody else. But rather, it's a person who is able to conquer his yetzer, his inclination. And at first glance, this seems to mean the yetzer hara, the evil inclination. The battle with the yetzer hara is continuous. It never takes a day off. It never goes on vacation. Every morning you wake up and you feel like you want to go back to sleep. Every morning you pray Shachrit. You've been doing it for so long, so why do you get that urge to just go back to sleep? Well, the yetzer hara doesn't take a day off. Even Moshe Rabbeinu had a yetzer hara. It just presents itself in different forms to different people. Every person faces a different battle with the evil inclination. And again, this is why the verb that Ben Zoma uses is written in present tense. Ezehu Gibor HaKovesh, a person who is conquering. He is conquering his Yetzer Hara. The term Gibor, who is strong, who is mighty, is used in reference to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the second blessing of our Amidah, that we recite at least 3 times a day. We say in the second blessing, Ata Gibor le'olam Adonai. You, Hashem, are Gibor, are mighty forever. What does this mean? The ability to separate what's wrong and right, that's part of Gevurah. Gevurah, of course, is where Gibor comes from. It's a strict line. It's a strict take with very clear and set boundaries. Hashem can provide rain, as is stated in the blessing of Atah Gibor Leolam Hashem, the bracha of Gevurah, when we say Mashiv Haruach Umorit HaGeshem. And that rain can be both detrimental or beneficial, depending on what Hashem wants it to be. Yesterday, here in Toronto, Ontario, where this is being broadcasted from, we had a very torrential storm that I think lasted only about 10 minutes, but it was so powerful and forceful. There was no way that was beneficial for anything. In fact, there was those small pieces of hail. It came down all of a sudden, probably may have damaged some trees because of the strong winds. That's rain. It's just not beneficial rain. It's detrimental rain. And then there's bountiful rain, rain that's able to nourish the ground and help plants and flowers sprout and flower into gorgeous things and allowing our fruit and vegetables to grow. That all depends on what wants the rain to be. And therefore, the Gibor in our Mishnah must be ready to do battle. It must be able to discern between the good and the bad. There was a story that I saw written in the book Mesilat Yesharim by Rabbi Abraham Twersky, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, a story of Rav Menachem Nachum of Chernobyl, where he was approached by one of his Hasidim that needed tzedakah. He needed tzedakah to marry off some of his daughters, and as was the custom, many of the Hasidim used to go to the Rebbe to ask for assistance for whatever needed to be. And he said, Rabbi, I need your help. I need about 150 rubles to marry off my daughter. I'm wondering if you can help me. And the Rabbi promised that he would do the best that he can to help find this tzedakah for the Hasid that needs the help. Lo and behold, just the next day, there was a man who walks into the Rebbe's office and says, Rabbi, you're not going to believe it. My business took a turn for the better. I made a massive sale. Things are flying, and I want to give a donation to you to help for anybody that needs help. I have 150 rubles. Please give it to whoever you need. Wow. So the Rebbe looks up, Shamayim says, Mina Shamayim. Just yesterday, a guy came and he told me he needs 150 rubles to marry off his daughter. And now comes a man the next day and he has 150 rubles. This is unbelievable. He tells his shamash and his gabbai, please go all the way, go find this man and tell him that I got his money. Go find where he is and bring him. I guess it was some time. It was in the 1700s, so it took some time to get this person. And as he was waiting to find this person to come back, he started doubting the decision he made. And he started thinking, wait a second, is this the right decision? Is this something that I have to do to give him the 150 rubles? You know, there's a lot of people that come ask me for tzedakah. So I'm going to give him something for sure, but what do I got to give him all 150? Maybe I'll just give him 100. Maybe I'll just give him 75. You know, even 75 rubles is a large amount of money. And I can save the other 75 for other poor people that come and require assistance for food, for shelter, or for whatever. And the more he was waiting for this person to come back to collect the 150, he kept on thinking, maybe that's what I should do. Just give him 75 or just give him 100. I don't have to give him all 150. And then he stopped himself in his tracks and he said the following. He said, wait a second, I got two ways to go here. I got two different ways to act. One of them is being advised to me by the Yetzer Hatov, the good inclination. And the other one is being advised to me by the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination. Which one is which? Which one is the good inclination? Which one's the bad inclination? And he concluded that the option to only give 75 to the person and split up the rest to other poor people, that has to be the Yetzer Hara. It has to be the evil inclination. The reason why he thought that is because only the evil inclination would constantly be nagging him over and over and over. He goes, that has to be the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hatov was that first thought that entered my mind to give that person all 150 rubles to help him. And then it was removed. And now only the Yetzer Hara is trying to get me not to give him the 150. Why am I telling this story? Well, from the language of the Mishnah, this person who is considered Gibor, he doesn't just conquer the evil inclination, but the language that is used is hakovesh et yitzro, he who conquers his yetzer, his inclination in general. Yitzro implies both inclinations. Not only must he conquer the evil inclination to prevent him from sinning or spiraling downwards spiritually, but as well, he needs to capture the Yetzer Hatov, the good inclination, and make it a part of him, because the word kovesh connotes two different meanings. On one hand, it can mean to defeat, like a person is kovesh, an enemy at war, he conquers and defeats them. That's something we do with the Yetzer Hara. But at the same time, kovesh can also mean to capture and keep. I want to keep this Yetzer next to me. That's a Yetzer Hatov. So at the same time, you got to be able to find the reason for both. I got to defeat the Yetzer Hara and capture the Yetzer Hatov. The person who's able to set clear boundaries and understand what is happening, that is the Gibor. And in many ways, we emulate HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We do know, however, that often we fail at this. And often we fall prey to the evil inclination, or we manage not to capture the good one when it presents itself. And that's why we cannot be called Gibor Le'olam. Ata Gibor Le'olam Hashem. When we refer to Hashem, it's Ata Gibor Le'olam Hashem. We are not Gibor Le'olam. Given that there's no man that doesn't sin, then we have to consider every single day like a fight and a battle. Every morning we lift our spiritual weights in an effort to win the fight and the war against the Yetzer Hara. And at the same time, we understand that we cannot do it without Hashem's assistance. This is why it's written in the holy books that the ultimate Geula will come as a result of the entire world either being kulo hayav or kulo zakai. Either the world is going to be completely not worthy, and Hashem, out of his tremendous rahamim, is going to take us out, or the world is going to be completely worthy, and Hashem will take us out because of our own merit. So that is Hashem's midah of gevurah. So you either are or you aren't. And in fact, you look at the pasuk that Ben Zoma quotes, better one who is slow to anger than one with might, and one who rules his spirit in the capital of the city. This pasuk actually seems to imply that having might isn't really the best way to conduct oneself. That Gibor comes secondary to one who is slow to anger. And the reason is because it's always best to act slow to anger. It's always best to act with chesed than to act with gevurah. Hashem is erech apayim verav chesed. That's who God is. He's slow to anger and abundance of kindness. And therefore we have to emulate that as well. But the main lesson, no question, as we aim to be a gibor, someone who is strong, is be able to discern the two between the Yetzer Hara and the Yetzer Hatov, be able to capture it and to conquer the Yetzer Hara, defeat it so that it does not allow us to sin, and at the same time, grab the Yetzer Hatov, make it a part of me, so that it'll allow me to act on the right decisions, to act on the mitzvot that I'm supposed to do, and help me become a better Jew. Moving on to the third statement of Ben Zoma, which is Ezehu Ashir Hasameach Bechelko. The next line has probably been, or is the main source for any talk of emunah and bitachon, of faith and trust in Hashem. The concept of being happy with your lot is the secret for being wealthy. Not just being wealthy in your bank account, but as well being wealthy in life in general. The reason is because it is human nature to seek wealth. We believe that the more money we accumulate, the more comfortable we will be, the more extras that we can acquire to make our lives more comfortable. The thing is, we try justifying to ourselves that we don't really want true wealth, but I just want to be able to have what I want and when I want it. And that's an attitude that can be very, very detrimental to emunah and bitachon, because never will he think that he has had enough. And when he doesn't have it, and when it doesn't come through, and things are not working the way that he wanted it to work, and the first person he's going to blame is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is God. God, it's not fair. Why does my neighbor have two very nice cars, and why can't I afford two nice cars? So great is the issue that Hashem actually chose it to be the last of the 10 commandments. The commandment, the Aseret HaDibrot, number 10, is do not covet. Do not covet the wife or the house of your friend. As a child, it's very difficult. It's hard to understand what this means. Number one, you're not married. I don't really know as a child what it means to covet the wife of my friend. But definitely, why in the world would I be jealous of my friend's house? But Hashem knows the nature of mankind and our innate desire to have exactly what my friends have. My friend has a new car. He has a new furniture. He has a new backyard. He just got himself a brand new kitchen that is stunning and gorgeous. And I want the same thing. Do not covet the house of your friend. The Sefer Orchot Tzadikim, which is a fantastic book on middot, in bettering our own character traits. I strongly recommend our listeners to read it if you haven't. He brings a parable on how a person who lusts after his base desires can actually transgress all of the Aseret HaDibrot, all the 10 commandments. The parable that will illustrate this is a story of a man who had a neighbor. And between him and his neighbor, there was a wall that separated their properties. And the wicked man coveted the wife of his neighbor and as well as some of his possessions. And one day he overheard the neighbor tell his wife that I need to leave town for a few days to go conduct business. So what did the evil Rasha, wicked man, do? On Erev Shabbat, or Shabbat night, he went and he broke down the wall that was between his house and the other. So right there, he transgressed the Melacha, he transgressed one of the 10 commandments of remember and keep the Shabbat. Then he forcibly attacked the wife of his neighbor in a way that he transgressed the mitzvah of you shall not covet your friend's wife. At which point he then laid with her, and then he transgressed the commandment of you shall not commit adultery. After that, he began to plunder the possessions of his neighbor, and the woman started screaming and crying out. And once he heard these screams, he slew her, he killed her, and he transgressed the commandment of you shall not murder. After he had robbed and stolen what he lusted for, he had already transgressed the commandment of you shall not steal, and as well you shall not covet the house of your friend. Then his father and mother found out what he did and began to rebuke him. He got up, started yelling at them, started cursing at them, and started hitting his parents, and thus he transgressed the commandment of honor your father and your mother. Afterwards, he was brought to court, and he and his worthless companions testified that the property found in his possession had really been left there as a pledge by his neighbor, and that he had permitted his neighbor to take them back in trust, even though he had not paid. He had trusted the neighbor with the pledge, and was never able to obtain possession of them until now, when the robbers had broken the wall and between their properties and went and grabbed the things. And in the meantime, he had slain the woman when there was a commotion and took back his pledge. Now, with this testimony, he transgressed the commandment of you should not utter false testimony against your neighbor. And then, as he went through life over and over and over again, he swore over and over and over again that he did nothing wrong. And so he transgressed the commandment of you shall not take the name of Hashem in vain. Finally, his crimes were revealed and his wrong became known far and wide. And because of this disgrace, he became utterly depraved. He denied Hashem completely and thus transgressed the first commandment of Anochi Hashem Lokecha, I am Hashem your God. He became attached to idolatry because he had no link to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and then transgressed the second commandment, Lo yeh lecha Elohim acherim, you shall not have any other gods, you shall not bow down before them, and you shall not serve them. So indeed, all of this was caused how? By his ta'avot, by his lust, because he was not happy with what he had. And thus we find that our ta'avot can bring a person to mamash transgress the entire Torah. So therefore we have to be happy. Ezehu ashir hasameach bechelko. We have to be happy with what Hashem gives you, and you will truly be wealthy. I want to focus on that word for a moment. It's sameach bechelko. Sameach means joyous, happy. It's not just satisfied. Satisfied means I'm okay with what I have, but I would be fine with more. But that's not wealth. The feeling of happiness is when you get that gift that you've always wanted and nothing else matters. If you don't know what that feels like, then you're not truly wealthy. But a little kid knows what that feels like. When the little kid wants that toy car or wants that baseball glove or a hockey stick or whatever it is for his birthday, and that's all he cares about, and that's all he wants, and his parents or his friends or whatever buys him that baseball glove for his birthday, he's in cloud nine. Nothing can make him happier because he got everything he needed. He's the happiest boy on earth, the happiest girl on earth, and they are truly sameach. Is there anyone more wealthy than that child? No one. They have everything. And that's what true simcha is. Maybe we can say that the meaning of Ezehu Ashir Hasameach Bechelko, one who is happy with his lot, with his chelek, is in reference to not just the physical portion that you receive from God in this world, your lot, your bank, your money, your wealth, your home, your cars, so on and so forth, but rather the chelek that you get in Olam Haba. Every time we begin learning Torah shebe'al peh, whether it's Mishnayot such as Pirke Avot or Gemara, we say Kol Yisrael yesh lahem chelek le'olam haba. Every Jew has a portion of Olam Haba waiting for him in the next world. And it all depends on our Torah and mitzvot. It all depends on our Maasim Tovim to determine how large that part is. A person who is rich is a person who has acquired a chelek, a portion so large that it brings him true happiness. Every time he performs a mitzvah, it's with a simcha shel mitzvah. Every time he performs a chesed, it's with a smile, it's with a hug, it's with a kiss. Every time he avoids an averah, he laughs at defeating the evil inclination. Of course, he's going to be happy with his portion in the next world. You know why? Because he deserves it. And nothing is going to take it away from that person. He is truly, truly happy. I got everything I want. I worked so hard for this over the course of my life. I feel wealthy. I am wealthy. Sameach bechelko, because I know my chelek that is waiting for me. And the last statement of Ben Zoma is Ezehu mechubad mechaber et habriot. Who is considered honorable? One who honors his fellow. On a very simple level, Ben Zoma here is teaching us the notion of reciprocation. When I act kindly and I honor and respect my fellow, in return, I will surely be honored. Deep down inside, everybody wants to be treated like a human being. Nobody wants to feel degraded. The mirror solution is that I must first choose how I treat others, and then other people will treat me similarly in return. Later on, we're going to learn the importance of running away from kavod, running away from honor. The Talmud states that anyone who runs away from honor, honor then chases him. Displaying honor to someone else is really the best form of running away from honor. Because for that moment, I declare with my mouth, or I declare with my actions, that indeed you deserve something that I don't. You received this acknowledgement, and I understand that it wasn't me. And I'm acknowledging that. I know it's not me, and I know it's only you. When the recipient then sees your desire to attribute good and welfare on his achievements, that's when he believes that you're really a true friend, and he will respond with similar praises. Now, developing such a trait is not easy, and that's why Ben Zoma hints that it takes a tremendous amount of work. How do I see this? Well, maybe it's hinted into the actual statement. Ezeu mechubad hamechaberet habriot. It's not hamechaberet ha'adam. It's not Ezeu chacham halomed mikol adam. But rather, Ben Zoma chooses to use the noun beriot. Beriot is actually more accurately translated as creatures. Yes, animals as well. Fish, insects included. Being compassionate on the creatures of the world could actually help develop the trait of respect and honor to the nth degree. Our greatest tzaddikim and leaders were shepherds because they felt for the animals that they were directing. The respect that I give for an ant or an ant farm or mosquitoes isn't going to make you a respected person, but it will encourage you to see the purpose of everyone's ideas, viewpoints, opinions, even if you don't understand them. I don't understand why the ants have to build that farm. I don't know. But I'm going to honor their space. I'm going to respect their space. I'm not going to go around and just trample over them and bury them and kill everything that they've built. I'm not going to kill a mosquito or a bee or a worm for no reason. I understand they are Hashem's creations and there's a purpose to them. And while I do that with animals and insects and fish, I have to for sure, alachad kama vekama, do that with my fellow human beings, who I might not share the same ideas and viewpoints and morals or whatever it is. We think differently, but I respect them. And I want to be respected back. So I listen to them. I hear what they have to say. It doesn't mean you have to agree. But it's something at bare minimum. I'm going to display respect and honor to that individual. I want to give you a very prime example of this that took place in the previous or maybe 2 generations ago. There were 2 great rabbinical leaders in the city of Meknes in Morocco. Meknes was arguably the capital of Torah in Morocco. It was a city with many, many yeshivot, and some of the greatest Moroccan chachamim stemmed from Meknes. 2 of those chachamim was Rabbi Yosef Mesas and Rabbi Rafael Baruch Toledano. They were contemporaries. They were 2 giants in Torah study. Yet, although they lived at the same time, they chose to follow different paths in their dissemination of Torah. Rabbi Yosef Mesas, the father of Rabbi Shalom Mesas, was of the more lenient kind. He felt it was his mission to make lives of the community easier without transgressing halacha, but whenever possible, I'm going to make life a bit easier. If there was room to allow something, he would allow it. And he would employ the notion of kocha de hetera adif. The power of permissibility is more preferable when given the choice. He was also a very charismatic speaker. He attracted a huge following wherever he went. This was Rabbi Yosef Mesas. Rabbi Rafael Baruch Toledano was the rabbi who took the opposite approach in halacha. He was more machmir, he was more strict. He felt sometimes it's better to be safe than sorry. He often took a Kabbalistic line when disseminating his Torah and halacha, as is very much apparent in his Sefarim Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. In addition, he wasn't as charismatic as Rabbi Yosef Mesas. He wasn't as popular. He didn't. His podcasts were not at the top of the charts. There weren't that many people coming to listen to his shiurim as Rabbi Yosef Mesas. But yet when they saw each other, there was the greatest respect shown. There was handshakes, there was hugs, there was Moroccan kisses. They respected each other for the Torah that they taught, regardless of their opinion on various matters. Ezeu mechubad, who is considered honorable? Mechaberet abriot. I understand that I might not share the same values or the same ways of learning or the same opinions, but I still respect you for who you are. I want to make that known. There are four major ideas brought down here in this Mishnah: wisdom, strength, wealth, and honor. And I was thinking, maybe each one of these ideas correspond and correlate to our four forefathers, although there were three major Avot, Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, but it's often said that Yosef HaTzadik was the additional father. That's why he's called Yosef, to add, representing Musaf, the Tefillah of Musaf, while Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov are Shachrit, Mincha, and Arvit. So maybe wisdom, I believe, is corresponding to Abraham Avinu. Abraham Avinu spent much of the beginning of his life, and probably arguably his whole life, battling the idolaters of the world and trying to convince them to believe in monotheism, the fact that there's one God. And he was, to me, no doubt, the one that represented the concept of Chokhmah, and he was able to disseminate that Chokhmah and teach that Chokhmah to all of his followers, and basically put Hashem on the human map. Hashem was always there, but he was the one that made the concept of Hashem Echad, Ushmo Echad, real for all of his followers, and that continued generation after generation. Strength, Gevurah, Gibor, there's no question that has to be Yosef HaTzadik. Yosef was the one who had to overcome his Yetzer Hara in his battle with the wife of Potiphar. And many other times, Yosef was a very, very good-looking young lad, and the wife of Potiphar wished to seduce him and cause him to sin. That wasn't easy for Yosef. Yosef, of course, represents the Sefirah of Yesod, which is the reproductive part of the body, the parts of the body that has the most pleasure, and as well the parts that is most connected to the Yetzer Hara and feeling and physical enjoyment, and requires a lot of strength. And Yosef was one that displayed that strength when he overcame the temptations of Potiphar's wife. The third was Ezehu Ashir, Hasamech Bechelko, which is wealth. Concept of wealth has to be connected to Yitzchak. Yitzchak Abinu was the one who fought with the nations to access the wells. This was a bitter fight. The wells which eventually brought him wealth, brought him a lot of riches. Me'as She'arim was Yitzchak, and as much as Yitzchak was a person so secluded, he was a person that was, and also represented Geburah as well, but Yitzchak was very much secluded in his world. HaKadosh Baruch Hu blessed him with tremendous amount of wealth, mainly because of these sources of these Be'erot HaMayim, these wells that he had. And last but not least, Yaakov Avinu Bechir Avot is probably the one that is correlated to honor, kavod. Clearly, Yaakov Avinu, at the end of his life, was mourned not just by his children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, but he was mourned by all of Egypt. And the reason why is because of the blessing which he bestowed on him. Egypt never saw so much beracha in the time when Yaakov Avinu was living there. Yaakov, living in any land that he touched, brought incredible beracha. Of course, the famous Rashi, why do you have to tell me that he left Be'er Sheva? Who cares? Just tell me that he went to Haran. And the answer is because every tzaddik that leaves an impression on the city. Something is missing when he's gone. And Yaakov Avinu, no question, was honorable because he respected the Paro, he respected the Egyptian people, and he gave them the blessings that he was able to give to allow the people, his children, to live in peace, at least for a certain period of time until the Melech Hadash rose and enslaved his descendants. There are a lot of amazing things in this Mishnah. That's one of the reasons I believe why it is one of the most often quoted Mishnayot. Whether it's the concept of wisdom, of Chokhmah, that we seek to attain at all day, all times, no matter what, wherever we go, whatever we see. Whether it's the strength that we need to acquire in order to battle our inclinations, our evil inclination, and capture our good inclination. Or whether it's the true wealth which comes with the happiness of our lot, the true simcha, that whatever I have, Hashem gives me, and I understand, and I believe that it is perfect for me, and it brings me true happiness, as I'm like that little kid when I got that baseball glove. Or whether it's the chelek that's waiting for me in Olam Haba because of all the effort and toil I put in the Torah and mitzvot in this world. Or lastly, the honor, the kavod, the honor that I show and I give to every single human being, every single creature, because I understand that they are Hashem's creation. And Hashem gave every human being a neshama, a soul. Every creature has a ruach. It's a living thing, and I treat it with respect. And all I can ask in return is that you respect me back. These are the four basic, fundamental things that Ben Zoma wanted to impart on his listeners and his readers. And Bezat Hashem, through the study of this Mishnah that we just went through, we can walk out here wiser, stronger, wealthier, and more honorable. Wishing everybody a wonderful night. Be well.